this jacket is flying. I mean, this never goes out of style. Right? Hi, I'm Rosario Dawson, and today I am with Glamour breaking down some of my most iconic looks from different characters I've played over the years. Mandalorian 2019.
Ahsoka Tano. Bo-Katan sent me. We need to talk.
We were talking a lot about, where Ahsoka is in her journey, and there was so much of a play of wanting the sage warrior. So she's sort of in the Gandalf the Gray period before she goes into Gandalf the White period. Wanting all of these materials to feel very old and very much worn, that has to have a certain kind of quality to it to make it feel like something that could be made in the future in space. You actually get into the weaving of this beautiful cloak that she wears that is large enough to cover her montrals. There's all these colors in it. As much as it might just seem kind of gray, there was so much texture and color and beauty, and it was just so nice. The materials felt so good. One of the things that I really liked, that we were able to build in were like the diamonds in the arm pieces that were really beautifully kind of built in so that you could see bits of the color of her orange of her skin and be able to see her back. So we kind of cut it in a way that we could see more of her skin, because that was just something that you used to see a lot with Ahsoka when she was younger. She would show up bare midriff, or she'd have her arms bare, or pieces that were kind of cut out. And it was a nice kind of nod to some of her earlier fashion choices, even though she's matured now into this sage, wise warrior. It's this forehead piece. They do this whole thing of covering up my eyebrows, so then they can put this whole forehead piece on so she can have this perfect alien forehead that doesn't move, which also makes it a little bit challenging expression-wise. I have a little, Brian Sype, who did the makeup, he actually gave me one of my foreheads. It was a very strange thing when we were filming, and he kept taking my forehead pieces off and putting them in a drawer. And I was so curious as to what he was going to do with them, but he ended up eventually actually giving them out as a gift to everyone. So this is Kids 1995, my very first role. I played Ruby, best friend to the protagonist. She's an out there young girl who is very promiscuous and takes her friend Jenny with her to get tested for HIV. And then the story pivots from there and is a very important tale into what happens when you're not paying attention to the kids.
No, man, here's that little thing in the tonsils, the softness, whatever the hell.
I loved the fact that we just leaned into what these kids' lives would actually be, and that's a lot of thrift shopping, hand-me-down kind of things. And so that was what I remember sourcing with Kim on this project. I played this character that only had 4 days of filming on the actual project. We did a really rigorous rehearsal period, which was very necessary considering none of us were actors beforehand. And it didn't feel weird because the writer was 19 when he wrote this, and the director had never directed something either before, so we're kind of all in it together and figuring it out. But it was so fun. It was very shocking when it came out and made the ripples that it did. Here I was discovered on my stoop to audition for something. I'm like, and if they're picking people off the street, man, this is probably going nowhere. Little did I know. We shot this in 2001. I was 21 years old. The world was a very different place. It's incredible that we shot this pre-social media and all of the things that we have now. We really created a family together. I love those girls like my sisters, and I'm so glad that the film has found its audience and it's still beloved all these years later, 20 years later. It's so wild.
Everything in my life would be alright.
Fashion is a really very important aspect to this film, and I don't think it got enough credit going into it, but we loved it. I mean, you think about this is their early 2000s, Destiny's Child with the girl bands who are all dressed in kind of their own outfits that are made to themselves, but kind of have them match but show off their different personalities. It's been really fun to see fans love rocking those ears and tails as much as we can.
I had it when I walked in the door.
Brands I still have quite a lot from. I have jackets, I've got boots, I think that was back when I still had some flex in my writer to be like, I want my whole costumes. I don't know where that disappeared, but somewhere along after Rent, I think they realized that might be too expensive for them to give up such important stuff. But I'm so glad, you know, because I loved Mimi. There are things that I bought, like leopard print bras and things that I wanted to wear that I still have today, just because it was just hard for me to get rid of, thinking about, you know, how I was trying to make every single expression and iteration of this character be alive. I have that bra still. I have so much from this film, and that makes me really happy because it's all still wearable now. Like, this jacket is fine. I mean, this never goes out of style, you know? Right? I'm glad I was just at that age where I had the audacity to imagine that I could be in this film, and luckily it paid off. It was very bold of me to audition to be in the film version of a play that 6 out of the 8 original cast members were going to be in. And I'm not trained, like Tracy Thompson was the only other newbie who was kind of brought into the fold. She went to Juilliard, so she was fully trained in this, and I just sang in the shower and loved karaoke. But growing up in that world and having been raised in an abandoned building in the Lower East Side in a very rich, chosen family artistic community like is represented in this, where you don't value people because of how much they make, but because of who they are, was just so important to me. Sin City was 2005. We had shot this in 2004, so I cut my hair off to play this character. Edmond, who's still my very good friend who did my hair, bleached it afterwards. So when you see us do all our press, I've got this crazy bleached hair that half the time I really didn't style well, so I look kind of like my grandmother. It's so funny, like literally we went to Comic-Con, I think it was the first Comic-Con that I went to, and it was like Jamie King and Jessica Alba, and they both bleached their hair, so we all showed up like, oh shit, we're all bleached blondes, except they looked cool and I looked like my grandmother. It was hilarious. I don't know, I was channeling Golden Girls. I love Golden Girls.
What style you want? I got a collection.
I was filming in scenes with actors who weren't there, who had filmed weeks earlier, and he had the technology to show us where we were in green screen. This was way ahead of its time. I was like, I want the earrings exact. I want the straps. I want everything exact. Like, I don't care. I'm going all out. You only live once, and I'll be able to look back on this as I am now and be like, I was looking pretty good in my 20s. Not too bad. I have to say, there was one thing we figured out the entire time we were filming, the way that we had done the straps on the boot that I was wearing. It was like this taut kind of leather that it wouldn't allow me, because it went over my knee. I couldn't really bend it past a certain point. So I basically had to stand on set. They had this like leaning thing for me so that I could stand, because I couldn't bend my legs. Up until literally maybe the last 2 days of shooting, when she was like, maybe I'll put elastic on it. Then I suddenly was like, it doesn't look like any different from it being leather. and I have mobility. I got to audition for La La Bonilla in my senior year of high school in 1997. We filmed He Got Game that summer. Comes out a year later, 1998. Everyone was like, oh my God, you work with Denzel Washington.
I'm Jake Shuttlesworth. I'm Jesus' father.
Hey, how are you?
This was a really special character for me. This was the roundaway girl that I grew up with, you know, with the nameplate necklace and the bamboo earrings and, you know, the attitude and like all that energy, that vibration was just so critical, especially because I'm from Coney Island. I was born in Coney Island. My mom was a teenage mom, went to Lincoln High School, which the characters in this go to Lincoln High School. I actually still have a Lincoln High School sweatsuit that I got from this. I loved it. I loved the play on the jewelry. I loved her hair. I loved the makeup. The yellow nails were a very big thing. I have to say, Spike gives me some of my best iconic names. You know, I got to be Lala Bonilla to this day. He still calls me Lala. Yo, what's up, Lala? I still get called Lala when I walk down the street. You know, one of my favorite memories about that movie was going to the premiere. I remember going to the bathroom afterwards, and these women that kind of confronted me in the back, like, I can't believe you did Jesus like that. That's so messed up. Like, who does that? And I started getting nervous because it got kind of like heated. You know, they started like listing off, because they had just come out of the movie, so they were feeling super animated. And I'm like, I just need to go to the bathroom. And then they were, you know, they said, you know what, but I felt you at the end. And that was so critical to me because, I'm playing this teenage girl who makes some really poor choices. And I grew up around that girl and she's constantly demonized and looked down upon. And I hate that, because I recognize the humanity of everybody. And I really tried to do that with this character. And so I felt really good at the end of that exchange where both the women said, I felt you at the end. This is David Oyelowo's directorial debut. And, when he got this script, he, told Emily how much he loved it and how much it resonated with him, but how much he wanted to see a story like this told through the lens of someone who looked more like him. And she was totally open to that. And when they changed that and decided to go with a family of color at the center of this, we got to hear Afrocentric music in there and clothing and all the kind of stuff that I think was just really important for representation in a story that we don't normally get to see people who look like me in. These great, big, fantastical, magical realism adventure stories that I grew up loving. I love that he leaned into it so much in doing his research that he was like, well, you have a fashion line based in Ghana, and it would be really amazing to have some of your pieces in this. So there are several pieces from Studio 189 that are in the film, which I thought was really cool that Nadine worked in with all of the other pieces that she was sourcing for this. So it was really nice. And I remember being a little scared because I brought this huge suitcase of Studio 189 with me, and a lot of our stuff were samples. We're a tiny little company, and it was like, you're gonna send all that back. I remember one of the things we had a really at the ends of the film, I wanted to throw a lot of our indigo in it. So I have this beautiful indigo wrap that she's holding herself, and in her state of her illness that it's really challenging for her to be upright, to be moving around, to be outside in the cold, that she's mustering all the strength that she has left in her frail body to be pushing out her love into the world, hoping that her son will come home safely. I also wear these really big indigo pants that were put in there, and she's walking around. And you might not necessarily know, there's just like little touches and hints and things that we threw in the background, or that you could see were part of her wardrobe. It was just really nice to kind of recognize all the mothers out there from all around the world in this project. Thank you so much for going down memory lane with me. Glamour, thank you for this opportunity. It's been such a journey stepping into so many different character shoes, and I'm glad that you got to do that a little bit with me today.